The Azerbaijan Grand Prix ended exactly how most of us expected it, with Red Bull utterly dominant once again and yet another 1-2 finish. Baku is definitely not the Australian Grand Prix, with the FIA looking like they may be able to avoid the limelight for once. Well, that was until the final lap. The incident that happened was considered a shambles by some, and the FIA are once again in hot water. But who was to blame for this? And also, it looks like Red Bull may also have fallen foul of the FIA. Let's be honest, the Azerbaijan Grand Prix was about as exciting as paint drying. Sorry for the bad joke, but we were hoping for a bit more action, especially with the new race format being labeled as a chance to bring more action to the weekend, and it certainly didn't in Baku. Does this mean it's a failure? Probably not, but it just needs more improvement. It wasn't only us that thought this at the weekend, but the noise coming from Mercedes was also that the race needed improving. There was no overtaking, even with a big pace difference, Wolff told reporters in Baku via Total Motorsport. It made it not great entertainment. We have to analyze the weekend with the sprint format, whether there's positives we can take out. But aside from the drama from the track itself, Wolff feels the sport needs to look at ways of improving its entertainment factor again moving forward, with seemingly fewer overtakes on show in Baku this year compared to the seasons gone by, with 100 meters removed from the DRS zone ahead of this year's event. At the end, it all comes down to racing. It needs the tough battles, and I think the highlight you could see yesterday was George and Max being able to battle it out, and today there was none of that. Even if you were within 0.2 of a second, it was still very difficult to overtake. It was nearly impossible to overtake unless the other driver makes a mistake. We need to really look at it and how we can make it better. Not how to make it better, we need to look at how we can just avoid a boring race. And I'm not sure that 100 meter more DRS would have made a difference, Wolff said. Now, we get it. Toto is not having fun and Mercedes are struggling. The man is not having a good time and not much would satisfy him. Well, maybe a first place would, but that doesn't look like it's happening anytime soon. But it wasn't only him that thought that the race was boring, but Lando was also not a happy camper. Norris crossed the line in P9 to end the race, which he was very glad to see the back of. Long race, like 20 laps in I was hoping it was ending already. We were just unlucky. The safety car came out a lap after we boxed, so we didn't really lose out in actual positions, we just lost out to Hülkenberg and Ocon, but they still had to stop, so probably didn't make much of a difference, he reflected as he spoke to Sky Sports F1. I mean, this is probably not the only race where we don't have much overtaking. We still have Monaco to come, which could definitely rival Baku. Right, so a boring race with no action, so it's an easy day for the FIA. No real incidents to investigate after all. Well, not really. Alpine had waited until the end of the penultimate lap to pit Esteban Ocon for his mandatory tyre stop. But in shocking scenes, officials were already setting up the Parc Fermé barriers, and photographers were gathering at the end of the pit lane in preparation for the podium as Ocon entered. Sky Sports commentators David Croft and Karun Chandok were therefore left puzzled when the live pit lane became flooded with media personnel, who had seemingly failed to acknowledge that Ocon was destined to pull in at any moment. In a terrifying scene that Croft called a complete and utter shambles, photographers were seen scrambling to get out of the way as Ocon came within inches of an ugly incident before pulling in to make his stop. As the drama unfolded, an angry Sky Sports pundit, Ted Kravitz, yelled, "What is this about? This is a shambles. We can see it coming. Alpine can see it coming. Why can't anyone else? What is going on down there?" If anyone has seen the onboard footage from Ocon's car, the whole incident was terrifying, with one photographer particularly lucky that no injury was incurred, leaping out of the way at the very last second. "That is not something that we want to see," Ocon said. "I don't understand why they were starting to prepare the podium and the ceremony while we were still racing. There is one lap to go and there are still people who didn't pit. Arriving at 300 kilometers per hour, braking very late, I see the barriers and I see all of the people around. This is crazy. It could have been a big one today. It's definitely something that needs to be discussed as it's something we do not want to see." The Frenchman was rightly annoyed by the whole incident and called for the whole thing to be investigated by the FIA. "It was quite close. I had to lift off and I had to back off, so I would not have liked to have been the ones in the middle there. If I missed the braking point, it's a big disaster, so that is a crazy moment." According to Ocon, the FIA is investigating the shocking incident. The last time there was an incident like this in recent memory is Japan last year, with many people feeling that the FIA did not cover themselves in glory. With many drivers in outrage, it looks like the FIA may have learned from that last lesson in Japan and have instantly investigated the incident. Representatives of the FIA responsible for the Parc Ferme area at pit entry are required to report to race stewards due to personnel blocking the fast lane in the pit lane on the final lap of the 2023 Azerbaijan Grand Prix while the pit lane remained open, an FIA statement read. The governing body has called for immediate remedies for the end-of-race pit lane control, with input from Formula One management and the FIA to ensure no repeat cases. An FIA bulletin read, "The stewards heard from the FIA representatives and determined that the relevant representatives took steps to set up the Parc Ferme area, and also permitted media and other personnel to gather in the start of the pit lane and the pit wall during the last lap of the race, while the pit lane was open and before the final pit stop of ocon. We noted that it was not unusual for the representatives to allow such persons into the pit lane just before the end of the race, in the usual course of preparation for Parc Ferme and the podium ceremony. However, in this case there was one driver that had to pit in the last lap, and this created a very dangerous situation for those that were in the pit lane at the time. We considered that it was fortunate that there were no serious consequences on account of what happened today. We stressed that the requirements of ensuring a safe and orderly event are paramount. This was acknowledged by the FIA team. We walked through the relevant procedures and protocol with the FIA representatives in detail and required them to take immediate steps to reconsider these procedures and protocols with the relevant stakeholders, including FOM, the teams, and the FIA, to ensure that this situation does not occur again." Another long-winded response from the FIA and FOM. "We're pretty sure that this one is an easy fix and shouldn't be an issue again. But who knows with the FIA, as they really can't keep themselves out of the limelight. Furthermore, it looks like Red Bull have fallen foul of the FIA after a recent rule change. Now, we're all used to seeing the engineers hanging on the fences, making a pretty iconic image for the end of the race. Still, this season, due to the FIA being boring, being safe, Niels Wittich clamped down on the celebrations ahead of the Australian Grand Prix, with pit crews not being able to scale the fences, but rather just keep their feet on the ground. The rule was highlighted on International Sporting Code and featured on pre-race event notes. The regulation reads, "It is forbidden for any personnel to climb on the pit wall debris fences at any time. Any action by a team breaching this ban will be reported to the stewards." Now, to be honest, this probably would have gone unnoticed if Sky hadn't highlighted this on their commentary on the race, with Karun Chandok, Ted Kravitz, and David Croft all stressing that Red Bull had breached guidelines. This probably won't really faze Red Bull, and if anything, they will probably get off with a fine, even if that. They'll probably just get a slap on the wrist. I mean, the FIA does like to be lenient on Red Bull, especially with costs. Now, that is a joke, please do not blast us in the comments. Christian Horner did clear up the situation with the Red Bull team principal, having this to say. "The regulations I think are quite clear, and it was something that the team manager discussed with the mechanics before the race. All of them had their feet in contact with the concrete wall. I think you'll find they were exactly where they should be," he told Sky Sports F1. Horner did also talk about how the dynamic between Max and Checo will work for the season. "Until the team's interest. If you're competing against a competitor, it becomes bigger than the driver's interest. But at this very moment, they're free to do it. They are both very competitive drivers, and they both want to win, which is why they are employed to the team. What matters is what they do on the track. We don't want a 2018 replay, which, for those of you that don't know, was when Ricciardo and Verstappen collided at this very track. Today, they pushed each other as hard as they could, and there was a fine margin today which split the two," said Horner. We wonder how Max will feel about this info. We're pretty sure that Jos will have something to say.